Recording in progress.
I quit. I resign. Mahal ko trabaho ko, pero mas mahal ko yung sarili ko.
Hello, sir. You can start now.
Okay. My voice is clear?
Pardon?
Okay, my voice can hear clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon all. How are you? Hopefully in a very good condition. Introduce myself. My name is Aditya Fatmandadika Purnahin, and on this occasion, I'm the moderator in the second material in the day about communication role in policy advocacy. Will be delivered by Sir Aswad Ishak M.Si. Before getting into the material, it would be nice if we got to know about his view more. Name Aswad Ishak, Bachelor of Communication, Universitas Gadjah Mada, UGM, Master of Communication, Universitas 11 Maret, and to Pak Aswad Ishak, time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Adit. You're a good moderator. And good afternoon, everyone. And I'm glad to meet you in this afternoon. We will discuss about policy, advocacy policy. I think public policy that relate to the communication. The focus is in the communication because when we talk about public policy advocacy, we talk or we do with communication stage. Yeah, as you know, or maybe in yesterday, you have been heard about the public policy. So in general, we can say that policy advocacy refers to organized initiative that seek to change official policy or legislation. So in this term, maybe in general, you heard that advocacy usually relate to the law or to the regulation. But in other way, we can say that the advocacy means to promote. So advocacy, in other hand, we can say that to promote something or to change the policy. Not only about how to advocate the society when they have the problem with the state or the government, but also advocacy means to promote something or to gather the support about the idea, about the policy to welfare of the society. And the manner in which this regulation applied, policy advocacy effort typically try to establish new policy. So when we talk about public policy, advocacy policy, we use this term to existing policy, or maybe we can use this term to the new policy, or challenge the development of policy to create difficulty or injustice for a specific group. Yeah. The aim, the policy advocacy, the aim is to change officially policy legislation or regulation. Usually, we use advocacy for change about maybe the regulation to our society, maybe about smoking, or maybe about health care, or maybe another problem of the social life. And I think when we talk about the policy, we talk about the communication. Next slide, moderator. Okay, now we move to the communication. Maybe all of you, maybe some of you can describe about communication in what is communication in your opinion on or in your idea for right now. I want to hear it. Maybe one of you can describe. Okay, Harvey Vertulo.
Communication for me. Hello, could I be heard before I continue?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Communication for me is the ability to convey what you want to say to another party. So let's say I wanted to tell tell my dad that I want to go to school. I tell my dad that I want to go to school.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Maybe idea, another idea.
Hello.
Grace, maybe.
Can you
Okay.
hear?
All
So
first.
communication is kind of medium. Message.
Am I audible po?
Okay, pardon. Your voice.
Okay po. So, for me, communication could be verbal or written. And in terms of communication in say, let's put in a context in a government communication, it could be verbally spoken in hearings and public opinions and so on. But in written context, it could be in a form of legislation, in a form of policy. So I think communication varies from context to context, but in general, communication is all about transmitting message and being able to express yourself under as a dual communication between the receiver and the sender in order for you to communicate.
Okay, dual communication between receiver and sender. Okay, Paul Jason, maybe.
Am I audible, sir? Adding to the statement of Mr. Oliveras, yes, it's communication also is a way of us to avoid any misunderstandings, and it is also our way to create connections from other parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. This chat from Tanjin Pio. Okay, communication is how we share and exchange thought, feeling, information with others using word expression or gestures. It help us understand each other and stay connected. Yes, I think all of your idea, all of your opinion is quite right about the communication, because in our forum today, there are 36 participants. So in our class today, we have 36, meaning 36 about the communication. What is the communication? Yeah, the communication is process transmitting, delivering message or meaning. The point is the meaning. We transmit the meaning. So when we relate to the advocacy, we can advocate our idea or maybe our society, our neighbor or another, when we can transmitting our meaning. So we have the same frame of reference. We have the same meaning about what is the idea, what is the opinion, how to make the change about our lives, and so on. So the main point is how we transmitted our meaning, not only about maybe the language or maybe the sign or symbol, but our meaning about our symbol, our language. And the component, we have 5 components in communication. Number one is communicator. A communicator, like I just speak to you, I'm as the communicator, but in the same time, I'm as the communicant. Communicant is the communicator in the same time. When I talk to you and you heard my voice, I'm the communicator. And then when I keep silent and you speak to me, I'm the communicant. Okay. The second component is the media. The media, or maybe some of us maybe knows the media as the channel. The communicators is the source, media is the channel, and the message and the feedback. And of part in the communication, we need feedback. Why feedback so important? Because when we deliver our message with our channel, we need feedback to continue the communication. As you said, that each other stay connected. Because when you silent and only me to talk to you, so we can communicate. Communication happen when two or more people responding each other. How about the function? The function of communication we have four function. The basic function of communication, I think we have four. The first, to inform. So communication can inform about all the things that we need or that happen in surrounding us. Okay, when you saw the television news, maybe you informed by television about maybe the airplane crash, or maybe about the bank rush and other. The second one, the function of the communication to educate. So communication giving role to educate our people or our society to do or not to do something. Because in media, especially in communication, educate is the basic form for our social life. The people usually they don't know about what must do if they faces the special situation or the special occasion. So we must educate. Maybe when the election, national election happens, so what must to do for the people? So we must educate how we use our maybe our right to choose our leader with the election. So the media or the communication hold the role, the important role to educate the people or society to do or not to do something. And the third is to persuade. To persuade people or to persuade another, just like to educate, I think, to persuade what not to do or not to do. And the last, about to entertain. What is the entertain? I think the most function that we search from our media is to entertain. How many of us saw the television or saw maybe you choose the YouTube for something? I think about more than 70 or more than 80% all of us stay tuned with the media to entertain. Okay, maybe Eliza Polo, can you describe about the entertain function of communication? About your experience, I think.
Good afternoon po. Come again po.
Pardon?
Come again po. Come again.
Okay, please describe about the function, the entertain of communication based on your experience in your everyday life.
So as what described by Mr. Oliveras earlier, that communication cannot only be done verbally, it can also be done through the use of social media, the use of social media platforms. So as a social media fan myself, I can use communication through sending memes to my friends. So that itself is my kind of entertainment. So for example, so using TikTok, for
Yeah.
example, during the national election in the Philippines, we actually see social media platforms as very vital in relaying informations. But
Yes.
there are also red, we call it back. What do we call this? Setbacks, because there are also proliferation of fake news happening through the use of social media instead of entertainment. So those are the setbacks then. Using social media platforms as entertainment and also communicating with other people.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Surastin Yafu, can you give your explanation about your experience to use media in your activity?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Entertainment is this popular function of the mass media, refer to the ability of the media to help relax people and create a means of escape from the stress of everyday life. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. We use media, or we select media usually to release our stress about the news of politics, the news of law enforcement, maybe. I think the most important thing and the most function that we use is about to entertain, to inform, to educate, to persuade. Always we use, but maybe smaller percent than to entertain. So the policy advocacy need communication, because communication is the means to communicate, to deliver message, our idea, our opinion about the good life in our social life. Yeah. So communication is the basic need to advocate. I think the communication not everything. Yeah, communication not everything in our social life, but without communication, everything is nothing. Do you agree about my opinion? Okay, Harvey, can you more comprehensive describe about your opinion?
Communication is a very important tool to convey ideas, as you mentioned, sir. I'd like to share what I've just seen recently.
Yes.
There was this activist group called Just Stop Oil. Their idea is to communicate to the masses that everyone should stop using oil, should reduce usage of cars, etc. But the way they communicate is by blocking roads, by disrupting the public. And so while I've heard all of this about Just Stop Oil, there was a duo in Britain that interrupted their protests by, instead of Just Stop Oil, their advocacy became Just Stop Pissing People Off, which means they interrupted their protests and therefore were able to communicate to them that they were trying to communicate to them that, that's not good. So so it is important that you are able to communicate what you want to what you want to say, what you want them to do.
Yeah, okay, that's the point about the advocacy. We use communication to utilize our goals to make better our lives in everyday life, in social life, and maybe any idea about the communication? Okay, Oliveras. Okay.
Good afternoon again. So,
Yeah.
aside from what we've discussed about communication, I think also that communication is a way of settling disputes in all aspects, even in personal dispute or maybe in countries having dispute or international stage. I think communication is one way for us to settle dispute. And I also just want to add that in communication, there are two sides where there are facts and there are opinions. And in the very recent times, as what Rappler CEO said, Maria Reza, that if an opinion was created or said many times, it could be fact because of the majority believes in it. So I think that is one of the dangers of an ineffective communication and a lack of critical thinking on those who actually reads or those who actually listen to what people communicate. So even though that we communicate with each other, I think we should have the critical mindset to decipher and to filter what is right and what is wrong.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, the next raise hand.
Hello. So I would just like to discuss on why communication is important on three basic structural analysis on this. Number one, I do believe that communication is important because it allows us to actually exchange information, which is vital in the globalized world that we live today. Secondly, it also allows us to exchange cultural experiences. And this kind of exchanges allows us to become more understanding on the differences present within the status quo, therefore creating a more inclusive world to live in at the end of the day. But more so, I believe that effective communication is actually vital because it would serve as a set, it would then have a central role when it comes to us addressing global challenges, issues, us fighting for social movement, because now we know that as we communicate with each other, we tend to understand each other even more, and then we tend to understand as well the different struggles that each other faces, despite like wherever status quos we came from. So long as we communicate, we then understand whatever it is that we struggle from, and from then on, from the very get-go of that, to be able to work together to actually promote cooperation and foster, at least a collective commitment to create solutions or sustainable, let's say, development in the world that we live in. So I guess that's from my end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think this comprehensive. Okay, Milky is Kofia. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, doctor. So my 2 cents about the importance of communication is that communication is definitely one of the backbones of a successful democratic societies, as communication is a necessary apparatus in pushing through policies and legislations that would really help in advancing policies and legislations, and that would really help in advancing progress within our societies. But also take note that communication can also be a very polarizing tool that can be harnessed by those, especially harnessed by those in power to shape public opinion and suppress and neglect marginalized communities. So I think communication can be both good and bad, depending on who's harnessing the power of communication as a tool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are of the your opinion about the communication. Yeah, communication can make the change, maybe good thing in our lives. In the other part, yeah, maybe we saw about the bad thing. Okay, the next slide. Now, we talk about the communication, about the definition, about terminology, and when we relate to the policies advocacy, we need to enforce our communication. We must do our stage to some step to develop the communication, the good communication strategy. The first step, I think, is about defining the problem. In defining the problem, the basic rock of the defining problem is we found the problem statement. So in this stage, in this phase, we use usually we use a media monitoring. We saw we see the media, maybe television, the radio, maybe the podcast, or maybe in Twitter, or maybe Instagram, or another social platform, social media platform. We monitor, we follow the media to know about the issues, or maybe the opinion of the media about the policies. We will know about the problem from media monitoring. And also we can use the key person, so we can meet our key person about the special issues or special thing that we faces, maybe about to reduce the use of the oil or gas to our cars. So who is the key person? We can meet the key person, or maybe we can utilize the interviews. Okay, we can interview our neighbor, our friend, or maybe some of the leadership, local leadership, about the issues. Or we can use FGDs, focus group discussion, to gather the variety of information about the spatial issues that happen for right now. Or maybe we can use the questionnaires or polling, or we use the report about the annual report from the corporate, or maybe from the non-government organization. And about defining problem, we must note that we can say that what is the problem. So the formula, the basic formula is 5W and 1H. How is the issues can affect our social life? Why it happened? Why it happened to me, not to another society? When the issues happen, and who is the actor about the issues, and where is about the place. Maybe the issues only happen in spatial area, maybe only happen in rural area, or maybe in spatial province, not general in the national area. Okay, I think the first step about defining the problem. So we must know about our problem before we choose the media, the proper media. Not only about the mass media that we discussed in earlier of this session, but also about the social media platform that maybe we can utilize to as a tools to communicate. Okay, this is about the step one. We define the problem. Please find your problem before you you choose the proper media. The fault that I seen, usually we find or we choose the media first. We thought we know about the problem. This is the fault of the communication strategy. Okay, next step. Next slide. Okay, still in developing communication strategy. Number 2, we must setting the objectives, because the objectives is the objectives will guide us how we attract, how we deliver our message with what media, and how many or the intensity to give the information, the media, maybe how many release that we can send to newspaper room or the other. And when we talk about the communication strategy, setting objective, usually we use SMART formula. The SMART formula as specific. The objectives must be specific. Specific is described in precise or detailed term. So this is will focusing our program with the specific objective, maybe to increase the awareness of our participant or our people to use electric motorcycle or electric cars, maybe the specific about awareness. And number 2 is measurable. Progress and achievement can be assessed and quantified. So when we use or when we going to set the objective, please note that your objective must be measured at the end of the program, in evaluation or maybe in monitoring program. And number 3, achievable, it can actually be accomplished with the time and resource available. Yeah. Achievable is related to our resources to enforce our program, to focusing, and maybe sometimes achievable is about our resources. Maybe we can say that we must do something before do another thing. And realistic, it is simple and practical to try to achieve this. Yeah, realistic. So when we start from zero awareness for the people to idea about how we deliver message about the healthcare, maybe hand washing behavior, yeah, from 0%, and for the next 3 months will be increased for 55%. Is it possible? Is it realistic? No, this is the no. And the last, a time bound for SMART formula. A specific time has been sent to achieve the objective. So we must define that our specific time, or maybe only a month program, a month campaign, or maybe 2 months, or maybe 3 months, etc. Okay, there are 2 stages about how we develop our communication strategy in good manner. Okay, maybe any participant can share your experience about the communication strategy, maybe the setting objective about your program in policy advocacy, maybe. Anyone can share, maybe? Okay. Again, Harvey, please.
My experience, I don't think it's related to policy advocacy,
Yes.
but this is when I was still in grade 12, so around 2 years ago.
Mhm.
During that time, I was group mates with our class valedictorian, and
Mhm.
while we were so and our task and me and the group and also her were tasked to create a research paper. It could be
Mhm.
any research paper,
Yes.
and she told us that we would be the ones to rest, to do nothing. She would make
Mhm.
the whole paper. She would be the one. She would be the one trying to formulate everything. Well, maybe apart from the experiments, but she would be making the whole paper, and we would have to understand what the paper is contained. And so, uh, and so and so I think the time where we have to talk about the paper is when she tries to tell us that, oh, this is for this is for that, like etc etc. She then explains to us that this is how we should explain it to them, this is how we should that we need to understand the contents of the paper, etc etc. And there and then when it was on the day that we have to present our research, we were able to communicate to our teachers at the time what we were trying to aim, and actually got the highest score for our group. So I think in a way the communication between each of us and the way and the fact that we were able to communicate to our teachers is I think successful, is a successful communication as well, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Harvey. Okay, next.
Hello. So I think that setting an objective is actually very much important when we talk about public policy advocacy, because first and foremost, it then would lead us to understanding what are the things that we really want at the end of the day, after we already did the needs assessment, after already asking what problems is in the community that we want to help in, or in the groups that we want to focus on. Setting objectives primarily leads us to avoiding certain problems, for example, such as going beyond the responsibility that you are up to do or are expected to step up to at the end of the day. And so setting objectives as second, I would like to second on Harvey's thought and how it is very much important to communicate all throughout the idea of setting an objective, because in public policy advocacy, you have to understand that you cannot do it on your own. You actually have people behind you and people beside you as you try to work through that. Hence, developing communication strategy when it comes to that is very much important, together with actually achieving a team objective that you want to work on. So at the end of the day, you would know where the path you would want to be at the end of the day, and where would you really want to focus yourself and the goals that you want to achieve in the long run. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there are two raised hand. The next. P.
Um,
Oliveros. Okay.
So for me, in experience as part of the student council in our university, I
Yeah.
think that if you already found the problem, in order for you to validate if it's really a problem that is going on for a lot of on a scale, I think the first thing that in order for us to communicate is to find data. Data is very important to analyze these problems, because without the data, we cannot validate the qualitative problems, because this quantitative data is important for us to look for the problems and to look for the solution. For instance, if you were to push for policies, and it is important that in your student council, you represent the student body. So it is crucial that your representation means that majority supports that. And for us to look for the majority of the student population, we must gather the data if they are in agreement with these policies. Because at the end of the day, if you, as part of the student council, it is important na there may be disagreements on some other matters, but if we reconcile it by looking at a more looking for a more validated platforms such as voting for us to validate in our democratic country. So it gives legitimation for the decisions of the council. And I think it is important that we back our ideas and our policies with data so that we can effectively communicate with legitimacy and with authenticity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Milky Segopia.
Good afternoon once again, everyone. So, reaffirming what the previous speakers mentioned earlier, I definitely agree with them that communicative strategies are in order for a successful public policy advocacy to materialize. Communicative strategies are very much important. As setting the objectives is very much pivotal in advancing your advocacy and your initiatives for the community that you are trying to reach in. I had a confabulation and strategic planning initiative with the municipality with my own municipality as a member of the local development youth council, and I had this strategic planning with also my fellow members to really assess the current needs and the current situation of children in conflict with the law with our within our municipality. So it's really a starting point to really set your objectives straight so that you would then be able to assess the current needs and the current situation of the advocacy that you're trying to push through. So that would be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milky. So the setting objectives will drive the next our program. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. The next, after we setting the objective, we move to the third phase. We call it as the stakeholder mapping. There are all of many stakeholder about the policy. I think the specific policy have the specific stakeholder, but when we move to another policy, maybe the stakeholder is different kind. Okay. In stakeholder mapping, we must state that we must do or maybe highlight, we have to kind of the stakeholder, the primary and the secondary. So the primary is the maybe I call that the primary is the ultimate destination of our program. So this we must focus on it because the primary is the important thing, the more on the very important thing that affect our idea or our program to maybe to the department or maybe to the government or to the society. And we must describe about the age. So please note about the age, because when we talk to the senior high school student, or maybe we talk or discuss with okay, before. Okay, back to developing the statistic. Okay, about the age. Yeah, when we talk with another age, maybe we will find we have the specific difficulties. Yeah, maybe the message or maybe the information is the same thing, but the way we will deliver to them maybe different. So please note that the age as the one factor, and the education maybe, the education about maybe the level of the education that our society, our people accomplish. We talk with the senior high student and the college student is kind of different. The gender maybe, yeah. when we talk and when we discuss with with your mother, with your father, with I think it's a different way. Okay, we must note that socio-culture background is more important to stakeholder mapping. And the media habit. The media habit is about the habit to use media to gather information. So maybe some community group usually using the newspaper as the media that they want to gather the information. So if we find that the social group usually using the newspaper, so we must meet the newspaper. No, not socialize or not send information to the social media, because about matching about the media habit. Okay, next step. Next slide. Okay. Development strategy. Okay, about the variety media. There are a lot of media that we found, maybe in communication. We know about the below the line. Below the line is the media, maybe the ancient media, the terminology, billboard, flyer, or maybe meeting with spatial group. Maybe this is the below the line, and above the line, like television, newspaper, magazine, tabloid, etc. And the online media or digital media, website, social media, and so on. Okay, this is about variety of media. Usually in advocacy, public policy advocacy, we use specific media, or maybe we integrated of it. We use maybe more than one media. We use newspaper and maybe Instagram, or maybe the campaign building the engagement in Instagram and Twitter and so on. Okay, next slide. Building message. Yeah. The next slide is building message. I think building good message is the important thing in communication, because when we deliver our message with our language that cannot delivered or cannot understood by our participant or our social, so we can conclude that communication cannot happen. Okay, in building message, we use the single message. What does it mean about the single message? Maybe Tan Jin Pyong, could you describe or explain about the single message? Another participant, maybe. What is about single message? Single message. Anyone?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Please.
My understanding on single message is kind of the short term, a very short and clear idea or point conveyed in communication.
Yes. Okay. Single message, clear or not message is about the message single is a single. So the participant, the audience, can deliver the information or can receive the information. The message is the same about with the sender. The receiver give the meanings is the same. So with single message, please do with the simple language you use in media, or maybe newspaper, or maybe magazine, or maybe another social media. And the message will followed by the audience will get the information by they search the valuable needs about match to their social life. Okay, next slide. I think it's more easier about implementing when you have the fixed plan. If you do the good planning in your program, in your campaign maybe, so you will follow the successful of the program. So the implemented communication plan based on planning scenario. Planning is about scenario that we build, that we make to face the audience or maybe the stakeholder. Next slide. The evaluating strategy for the communication strategy is measuring the communication implementation or communication effectiveness. So in evaluating communication strategy, we not only about this is wrong, this is good, but we can explore with comprehensive that our program in the right way, and can make our social life more better than before. Okay, so we will giving the recommendation to all stakeholders. Okay, next. Okay, I think this is the last slide. Maybe Adit, maybe you can stop share. I will share another maybe another file.
Oh, okay, sir.
Okay, I have two videos. Yeah, the videos that maybe we can discuss about the clear message and the special issues about public policy. Okay, wait a minute.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay, what's the lesson learned about these videos? This is about the campaign. All of you can see clearly about the video. Huh? No? Okay. Adit?
Hello, sir. Your
Huh?
video didn't work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We can start again.
Okay. Okay, now you see about the video then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. What is the best lesson learned from this campaign? I want to try to, okay, see Olivros, please.
I think the clear message that the video has shown to us is how marketing has really proliferated in the community, because the context of that is that they're promoting their gym. So basically the thin girl was the result of the plus size girl who's walking with her. So I think na it really depends on the context on how can you achieve that goal. Kasi in certain matters, some things are different when you look at an advertisement and what actually arrive at your doorstep. So it is important that in the same context manner, also in communication, let's say social media, not what you see on social media is true. So basically, we need to be critical, as I've said before earlier. Na we need to be critical because for example, in a gym, you cannot. It was not clearly stated na how many weeks you are going to be in that gym for you to achieve that goal, which actually it's somewhat imaginary to the point na it's not that factual, because it's your health, man, it's your body, so it differs on how you maintain your discipline, and it does not mean that when you go to gym everything happens. It's not magic. So basically you need to have a clear communication, a clear understanding on what the video is selling and what you are getting. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Fee. Okay, good analysis. Okay, maybe the other? Anyone want to share the opinion about this video campaign? Okay, Helpertuna, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Okay, please.
I think it's the video can be conveyed as a false advertisement, I think, because as like what Mr. Olivero said, not all the results can be achieved. And the advertisement really highlights that if you go to the gym, you get thin, but it doesn't really convey that how many months or how many days you have to do or you have to work out in order to achieve that body. So I think it can be called a false advertisement or a false news, or I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. That's good analysis. So when you use your program, you must design with the specific message and maybe about the talent about the other. Okay, because maybe some of your audience think the another thing. Okay. This is not the single message. Okay. Okay. Next video. This relate with our maybe our last opportunity about, or maybe our sense in our social life about the raise up of the increase of the carbon dioxide in the air. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I repeat. Can you see? Can you see it? No? Okay. Adit, can you see it about my sharing video?
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
This video, there is no sound.
Okay. I repeat. Okay, wait a minute. Sorry. Okay. We try again. Okay, we'll try again. Okay, the voice, can you hear?
No, sir.
No. The video, the picture.
Yes, it is like as the slideshow mode.
Okay, but no voice.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wait a minute. What happened?
Maybe you can send me your videos. Huh?
Oh,
I want to share from my PC.
yeah. Okay. But it's very big size, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me try once again, yeah.
Sure.
Let me try once again. Maybe without voice, maybe. Okay. Okay. Without the sound, maybe can you describe, or maybe because there are a lot of the video and maybe some caption to explain this video campaign. Okay, anyone can explain, or maybe will contribute to give the explanation. Lucy, maybe Lucy, man. Okay, no, thank you. Zarina Akiapani, Tracy Zarina Akiapani, maybe you have any idea, any opinion about this campaign?
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah. Okay.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, okay. Hello.
Sir, I'm
Okay.
very sorry due to my poor internet connection. The
Okay.
video appears to my end.
Oh.
It's like a slideshow.
Yeah. Okay. Oliverus, okay. Maybe we move to Oliverus, okay.
So from what I've understood about the video, it's about the BMW electric car. So basically, they are showcasing na in these appliances, the car could go in this kilometers or meters. For example, if the usage of blender is equivalent to 1 to 2 kilometers of the car. So in the context of our discussion right now, let's say for the green economy, I think na it's in that particular date, I think it's kind of possible for electric cars to be a new facet for us to reduce the carbon emissions and carbon footprint. However, it is also a form of marketing in order how to contextualize how this car operates, because in that particular time may it be na electric cars are kind of new for them. So in order for people to understand how this work, they actually put it in the context of their appliances in which people use every day, to put them into a perspective that people could understand. So I think that is actually from a macro concept, they are making it a micro concept so that people can digest the information and to actually entice to buy the product for the usage of the electric cars. Thank you.
Thank you, River. Okay. Next, Princess Mary Tomorrow. Okay.
Hello. So based on my understanding on the video, I would just like to second Kuya V's call on how they actually try to understood the people who were actually the ones that would see the kind of exhibit that they would be showing. I think this goes and ties us back to the idea of how communication, when it comes to policy advocacy, is more focused as well on trying to know the status quos that you are trying to deal with. It means that you have to understand the demographic of the kind of society that you want to deal with at the end of the day in order for it to be, number one, relevant, number two, significant to these people, and lastly, to become understandable as well, because that's the very goal that you have as something who wants to convey a message. As someone who wants to be the sender of the message, of course, you have to make sure that the receiver of the message on its end would understand the kind of message that you want to convey and the kind of understanding that you want them to have at the very end of the day. And this as well goes to show how there are indeed a lot of varieties and means on how we would be able to communicate and convey our messages. It doesn't only have to be, verbal messages. That kind of advertisement goes to show how we can actually make use of the innovation that we have right now to further break down the barriers and at the same time communicate and connect with each other on best ways we could possibly know how. And I guess that's my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The important question is how many electrical cars or a motorbike in your country used by the people? In Philippines, maybe, in Thai, maybe, or another country. I think in Asia is I think a little more about the people using the electric car. So this is about the policy, how the government with their policy encourage to use the electric car to reduce the carbon dioxide. Okay, as discussed in a previous session or maybe in yesterday about the green community and so on. Okay, Adit, I think is enough explanation about the communication and the relation with the public policy advocacy.
Okay, thank you, sir. I want to ask, sir, will this be followed by a question and answer session, or we can end this discussion? Because
okay.
time will end.
Okay. Oh, in what minute? 5. We have 5 minutes. Okay, maybe one question. I
Yeah,
think
if you want, can try to. Oh yeah, this Kirti Trixie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure.
Okay, Kirti, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Trixie from Central Mindanao University. So, previously we have discussed the role of communication in policy making, in policy advocacy. So, as we all know, in a globalizing world, we have diverse background, language, and culture. So, how do these differences influences or affects the effectiveness of transmitting information or communication in policy advocacy, especially in the context of diverse communities?
Okay, thank you, Kirti. About the social culture background, I think is about the background of our audiences. So when we talk about when we talk with our audience with maybe the specific ethnic group, we must know about what able to communicate with them, what's their value, what the media habit that usually they use to gather information or maybe to exchange the information each other in their group. So in specific ethnic group, maybe it's kind of different with the another group. Example, maybe when we talk maybe in Indonesia, yeah, maybe in Java we have certainly more than 5 specific ethnic group. When we talk or when we discuss with in East Java, maybe we can use the spatial language in East Java. That it's kind of different about in West Java. So it's a socio-cultural background. Okay, it can be understood.
How Kirti? Any suggestion?
Can I still ask questions?
Milky, sorry, because this is just one question.
Okay, thank you.
Just some time it's over. Okay, enough. Oh yes, sir. Thank you, sir, and everyone. Thank you for joining from the beginning to the and this discussion. Yeah. Before I will end this discussion, next proposition together, I will guide it. You can open your video camera.
Please open camera, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. You can leave this meeting. And to everyone, we can break 5 minutes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you all. Maybe we can see you next occasion, next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Everyone, you can still in the room because we can break just 5 minutes.
takes you out and he takes you up, 'cause he can show you so much. I go to bed and tomorrow again. There's a lot of work to be done. He gives you gold and he'll promise you the whole world will be yours. I just can't tell you I love you so. Even though my odds are low, I'm not an actor, I'm not a star.
Dudu jarak sing gawe awak dhewe pisah. Nanging kowe ning mburi meneng-meneng gawe pisah. Ana kok dipangan pada remuk
Pas aku telan cepul ketemu kowe ning dalan, kowe konangan kendaan. Ngomong jalukmu piye, tak turutane, tak usahane. Aku ra masalah yen kon berjuang dhewe, sing penting kowe bahagia endinge. Nanging ngopo walesan ning aku, kowe luwe milih dhek, kowe ninggal aku ninggal tatu. Kurang opo lek ku mertahanke kowe, kowe malah ngeboti liyane. Aku kaget delok statusmu tangan gandengan, jelas uturo aku sing ngancani kowe taunan. Janjimu janji bae jare arep tekan tuwek, nyatane cangkemmu elek ati ajur mbok suwek. Tiwas wis kuwang wektu aku ngancani dapurmu, wong kere kaya aku tak tendang seko uripku. Kowe ngepoti bondo tinggo nuruti gengsimu, kowe milih kono sik iso nuruti senengmu asu. Pas aku dolan jebul ketemu kowe ning dalan, kowe konangan kendaan. Ngomong jalukmu piye, tak turutane, tak usahane. Aku ra masalah yen kon berjuang dhewe, sing penting kowe bahagia endinge. Nanging ngopo walesan
Ma'am, can we start now?
But device.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon from Indonesia. It's me again, Aulia Nur Kasiwi, as moderator in the last session today. I hope you are still excited for this season, okay? In this session, you'll be hearing a presentation from Mrs. Aulia Nur Kasiwi S.IP M.IP. Before start the presentation, I would like to mention about the biodata Mrs. Aulia. First, personal information, name Aulia Nur Kasiwi S.IP M.IP, position researcher at Yusuf Kala School of Government, expertise, digital governance, ICT and governance, public policy management. Second, education, doctorate in law, Faculty of Law, Gajah Mada University on 2018 until 2023, Master Degree of Government Affairs and Administration in Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta on 2012 until 2015. Bachelor of Government Affairs and Administration in Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta on 1999 until 2004. Okay, now let's start the presentation. Please welcome Mrs. Aulia. Time is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to meeting you again in this session. And I think it's already in the last session for today, right? So the topic will be about policy and methodology. It's just about how you can gathering and how you can arguing and also arranging for the policy making process, because policy it's part of our courses. Even though you guys, maybe some of you are coming from law faculty or law department, but it's also still relevant with our policy making. So before we start, we have 30 participants for today. Nana?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, maybe I would like to know some of you are coming from. Celestine, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, Celestine, are you in Philippines right now or you are in your original?
Currently, I'm in the Philippines now.
Okay. Okay, thank you for joining our summer school. And Paul Jason, where are you coming from, Paul? Are you coming from Central Mindanao? Okay, I'm not really clear to hear your voice. Maybe you can fix it first. And then maybe I have Trixie in here. How are you, Trixie?
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, your voice is clear.
I'm good, ma'am. It's nice to meet you, Paul.
Okay, everyone, if you want to take water or some snack, it's fine. Because I know that it's already tired for some of you from morning to this noon, maybe. Okay, so maybe we going to our, maybe Nana, can you help me to be a co-host, please? So I can share the material.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, waiting for that. Carol, Joy. Carol, Joy. Maybe still take a break for a while. And then Safina. Safina, are you in?
I'm from Indonesia, but from IGoPSS.
Okay, so maybe you can turn on your camera as well so you will know each other.
Sorry, my LCD was broken from yesterday, so I can turn on my camera because I'm
Okay.
using handphone.
Okay, so we will going to our main session. So give me a second. I will just share my screen for a while. Okay, is everyone can see my screen? I hope so.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Before we are going to know about how the policy making process can be practically implemented, maybe some of you can give me the brief, what kind of policy that you know, or maybe you can give some example that you know how the policy can implement it. Maybe in the case of Philippines, in Papua New Guinea, or in Thailand, how the policy implement in your country. Maybe anything, anyone will explain? Okay, Princess, please.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Princess from Central Mindanao University. So, what comes to mind when we talk about policy making is usually the gap between the theory and practice. This is something that is very common in the Philippines. We have very well written laws, we have very well written policies because of the legislators that we have. But when it comes to the implementation, there's a lot of gap when it comes to that. And there's this interesting article that I've just read yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. It was something about how the theory of the gap rather between practice and theory can be solved if we'd actually focus these kinds of policies coming from grassroots level. Like most of the time when we make policy, we usually talk to the people in the higher ops, like we talk to the people in the top of that food chain. Well, sometimes we forget to talk to the people that are actually experiencing these things. We forget to talk on we forget to convey and do grassroots conversations, which is at the very same time very vital when it comes to policy making, because coming from that grassroots itself, they know very well the kind of struggles that they are facing. And I think that's something that should have been very much important to be considered when we talk about policy making. And that way might be, not possibly, but according to that article, we can somehow, try to fill the gap between theory and practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess. It's really comprehensive answer. Yes, when we talk about the policy making process, then we will talk about the research gap. So that's why maybe for the student who taken the government or the law and also politics, they will doing a research about how you can define the research gap, isn't it? Maybe some of you will also have experience on that. So, okay, Maggie, please.
Hi, ma'am. Good day.
Good day,
am I
Maggie.
audible?
Yes.
Okay. With your question, ma'am, of how a policy is being implemented here in the Philippines. So in the context of Philippines, ma'am, a policy is being implemented through the government agencies. For example, the DSWD and the NEDA. The DSWD is the Department for the Social Welfare and Development, and the NEDA is in charge for the the NEDA is the national. I can't recall the NEDA, but yeah, it's a government agency, and these government agencies are they are to implement currently the Republic Act the Republic Act 8980, which is the ECCD system, or the Early Childhood Care and Development System. So that's how a policy is being implemented in the context of the Philippines, ma'am, through the government agencies.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mickey. So, okay, one point out again when we are doing a policy making process. So it's not only the research gap, but it's also how we can collaborate with the stakeholders and how we can work with it together between each agency, or we call it interagency. So before we are going to know about the policy, yeah, like Princess was explained before, that this is the gap between the theory and the practice. Because when we talk about the theory, so we can talk about the concept. But when we are talking about the practice, so we can talking about the empirical studies. So you will get the point. Somehow, when the policy have to be straightforward within the concept and the empirical, it's not working at all. Or somehow it will really not efficiency, because it will lack of the information, it will lack of for the time that they have to work on that policy or the strategy. So what is the theory? So the theory is an umbrella term for all carefully systematic and self-conscious discussion and analysis of the communication of the phenomena. When a student doing a research or arranging for the policy making, maybe they will lacking in how they can define between the phenomenology, and then how they can define in the case, and how they can define in the concept. For example, maybe the phenomenology is about the digitalization or the technology. But what is the concept? The concept is about the government's digital or digital governance. But for the case is what kind of the case? So the case is maybe for the example, how the government can really understand how to use digital interoperability, and how the government can really works and behavior can follow the policy when they are implement digitalization. Maybe that is for the example. So when we talk about the theory, so you guys have to make sure you can define what kind of the phenomenology, and what kind of the concept, and what kind of the cases, because the three of those are really different concepts. So when you already define it and you understand how you can divide it each other, so you can know how you can break the research gap, and then how you can found it, the research gap. So as the Bergen statement, that a set of systematic informed handlers about the way things work, and a set of interrelated propositions that suggest why events occur in the manner that they do. So when we talk about the theory, it will be in the different phases, or like in the different perspective. When we face the theory as the needs, so we will knowing that the theory is the capturing or understanding something from all phenomena in the world. So maybe for example, the phenomenology is about technology. So when the word have the phenomenology about the technology, maybe the theory can be released in the government is government digitalization or digital governance, or maybe in the famous famous statement or word is about smart city, electronic government, right? So it will be releasing some of the concept from the theory. But if you can face the theory as a lenses, so you can focusing only the social phenomenology are usually very complex, then the theory will have focus on something that will make it easier to understand. But also theory can be defined as maps. The theory can help to trace objective behavior that may lead to new explanatory areas. Maybe for example, before we are going too far in the making process of policy decision, maybe for example, you guys doing a research in undergraduate studies. And in your research, it's not only how you can examine the topic or how you can answering the research question only, but you have to really understand why your cases have to be releasing or have to be discussing with the concept. The concept will release in framework, theoretical framework, or maybe a literature review for some of the department may be using literature review only or framework theory. So maybe that is one of the simple way how you can release or how you can give the suggestion to making a policy process or policy decision. So we are going to public policy. For Guy Peters, maybe public policy already defined many scholars, such as for the famous scholar is Frederick Taylor. Maybe I can share the thought of them that it's really helpful for the social study. And then the Guy Peter, and then Hendrik Fayel, maybe Max Weber is the famous one. Maybe some of you already know and read his theory and his book. But for Guy Peter, explained that public policy is the sum of government activities, whether acting directly or thought agents, as those actions have an influence on the life of citizens. So public policy have the different paradigm, like in the maybe in 1960 until 1990, it's about the paradigm of old public administration. So it will lead and it will affecting the public policy decision for the government. But after that, the old public administration can say that old public administration is not very common, or it's not really focusing about the social, in the social experience or in the social life for the society. So it's not really good deal if the country have to implement old public administration only, because the paradigm of old public administration only focusing about the actor in the top level, like maybe Princess was explained before, that we have a gap between the top and then maybe in the low level, that it's not really implementing the grassroots. So it's mean that the government still implement the paradigm of old public administration, but old public administration is not really common again. Then they have to be moved on to new public management and new public services, that the focus about the management of the government's issue, and that the services, how the government can deliver the services to the society. So it will in fact affecting how it will work, public policy working with the agency or the interagency, right? The governments itself, even though in the local government, in the village government, or in the national government, and also will going to the citizen itself. But for if you guys implementing or knowing about the actors of good governance, so we have three actors like governance, citizen, and private. So while private have to support the government's policy, because private is one of the actors that can help the citizen to implement the policy that government have to implement. So it is aimed at solving public issues, and then constitute government activity directly indirect to its agencies, and its result and performance are depend on capacity and commitment of policy stakeholders. So the public policy have to include the stakeholders. It's not only the government have to be deal and have to be releasing the policy, but also it will impacting the private sector. Maybe I will share my thought about the Indonesian cases, it will releasing like the representative of Indonesia when they have to arranging the act of law, and then for the policy making process, they already have to be transparent. So the private can really see how the government work on the policy, and then how the representative of a national country have to make sure that the citizen can really can really knowing how the government work on that. Maybe I will just share it soon. Yeah. So this is the policy that we have to understand when we are talking about the public policy. Then we will talk about the policy formulation process, policy advocacy, and also policy analysis. So we are in this level, policy analysis. I hope you guys already know about the policy advocacy in the previous session, right, with Mr. Aswad. And then the first thing first, policy formulation. This process or this step, it's only about politics. It will talking 100% about the politics issue, and then how and then the politics opportunity. You know what I mean, right? Like how the agency A and agency B can be really fit and can be mutually beneficial for each other, and here is the process. So maybe why the policy process and policy or public policy implement not really work or still found the gaps, because maybe they are running in the politics level or in policy formulation. So maybe some of people will say that, okay, the regulation is now, the regulation is applicable, but it's only for the top people, but it's not really affecting the bottom level. So for the next is policy advocacy. It's about the communication, how the regulation, how the policy can really be communicated, can really have a lot of agreement from the people. But we don't have to forget that in the third level of policy, public policy, we have policy analysis, or we call it in here is methodology. So people can really give the argument, can really disagree about how the government releasing the policy, if you already know about how the methodology that the government use. So you can really maybe in the not good way, it's like demonstrate it. So if you want to demonstrate it, some public policy, so you have to studying first about the methodology that they use in this regulation. So your statement will not really lacking. Okay, so policy tools. So policy tools, also known as policy instrument, that the governing instrument and the tools of government are governing techniques that aid in defining and achieving policy objective. Like I was mentioned before, that we have to know about the differences between phenomenology, the concept, and also the cases, because the three of these are different and really important to analyzing and to implementing how you are doing policy making process. I'm sorry guys, because my kitten just born and the sound maybe it's not really okay. Okay, in the general, this more generic academic studies of policy instrument examination. So when you have to working or studying about the policy process or public policy process, you have to examine this instrument. What types of tools available to government? Maybe when we are talking about tools, maybe it just sounds like the application or like how they work on it. But the tools is mostly are coming from the methodology that the government using when they work on public decision. And then number 2 is how can this be classified? And then for number 3 is how have this been chosen in the past? And the number 4 is there any observable pattern in the choice and use of such tool? And then number 5 is how can this pattern be explained and how can practice and theory be improved based on past pattern of use? Maybe we are agree. I'm not sure you guys agreed or not, but in my own perspective, we are agreed that before the digitalization is coming up to our governments, maybe everything just running based on the government perspective without any or without looking for what kind of the outcomes from those policy that the government used. Because what? Because can we see that maybe some of the regulation that coming up from the, for example, coming up from the Ministry of Social Agency or Social Affairs, they are explaining that the welfare people or poor people have to improving their education, and the social affairs of ministry have to support with the scholarship of education. But maybe in the statement of the Ministry of Education is different. Like maybe in Indonesia, we have to take a study 9 years, like in the elementary, junior, and high school, without any payment for that. But the realization or the practice, some of the school are taking the money from the student because they are not taking the money for like school stuff, but for like we call it like hibah, or just give it to the school, something like that. So it will different. Okay, up until now, there is any question? Maybe Tanzin Pyo, maybe you can explaining how your experience in the policy studies and etc.
My experience is see, the making policy is sometimes depend on the having of the legitimate bodies. So it also mean it is it may need the democratic government to make the policy. So one of my example that we have experience in Myanmar is before the coup they have a parliament. So at that time, they have a lot of community consultation events to make the policy for the vulnerable communities or marginalized communities to against the elite class. But after the coup, the legitimate body like as the parliament is not here. So all of the the policy making process are over. So my understanding is even though we have a lot of theory or any practice, but if not there was the legitimate body, it will be hard to make the policy.
Okay, thank you, Tanzin Pyo. Maybe as you are experiencing, before 2021 under the democracy government, there was a parliament that developed hundreds of policy through community consultation processes. However, after the coup, the legitimate body was abolished and there was no capacity to develop further policy. So in your idea, it will disrupt the citizen or the society's activity, or it's not impacting to the society? Yes,
Sorry?
Tanzin Pyo.
Sorry, can you please?
So in your idea, when the government already implement the democracy governance in your country, so it's still impacting negatively to the society, or it's not give the impact anything to the society?
So if the democratic government is continued, so it will not be impacted negatively.
Okay, okay, thank you, Tan Simpio. Okay, so we are going to the next slide. So this is some policy related activities that can be affected by the use of procedural instrument are listed in the left, in the right slide, that define or alter policy actors' position. So we have to know about who are the stakeholders that are working on this policy, and then add actor to policy network. In the policy networks means it's not only the policy, or it's not only how the stakeholder work together, but it will impacting the political issue in here, in this step. So change access rules for policy actors is also part of the policy or the policy formulation that can be focusing about the politics issue and how they can win the rule and how they can win the point in the regulation. And then number 4, influence policy network formation and then promote self-regulation. They have to give the suggestion in each actors with what kind of regulation that really impactful and really affecting the society and the national or the governments, and then modify governance structure used in the policy delivery. In the 7, change policy evaluation criteria, and then influence payoff structure for policy actors, and then influence professional and other codes of policy relevant conduct and behavior. Regulate policy and social conflict is a must, and change how actors interact with each other, incentive certain types of policy action, and then change supervisory relation between policy actors. Maybe I will show you how Indonesia can work with policy formulation that have to coming up or sum up with some of the actors. Give me a second. So we have this one. Okay, I'm sorry guys, my internet is not work well. It's still refreshing. Okay, maybe it's not work for the website of our representative, national representative. Maybe we will going next slide only. Okay, so this is how you can classically rational problem solving in process. Mostly if you're working on this, so you are in the level of policy formulation, or we have to know that the point of politics are really coming up in this part. For the first is define the problem, what kind of the problem, and then the phenomenology and the concept. And then number two is determine the evaluation criteria. Mostly, if the government would like to range for the criteria, they will give the what I say, like blueprint, and then they working study or policy brief, doing a policy brief with the other country to know how they can work well. For example, maybe Indonesia will implement national data center, and then Indonesia study with the Korean Republic of Korea in the South Korea, yeah. And then they work and they are arranging the partnership because they think, or Indonesian government thinks, that Korea already good in implementing the digitalization and national data center. So that's why it's a must that the national, or even though the policy process, public policy or policy formulation have to including the study of other countries to know how it worked well. And then number three is identify alternative policy, releasing some policy alternative that can still fit with the object or the concept of our policy identification. And then number four is evaluate alternative policy, that it's still reliable or it's not. If not reliable, then it's not work at all for the policy implementation. So the government have to run off, have to knowing and how to search with what kind of policy alternative that can really fit with the government or the countries. And number five is selecting the preferred policy. Then number six is implement preferred policy. So before the government have to release the policy, maybe they will work as a draft policy and then implement for a draft as a draft policy to make sure that it's work or not. Or when we are doing a research, maybe some of you, if you guys doing a research with quantitative method, maybe you have to trying out first, and then you have to make sure your variable, your criteria, your indicator are really fit with the object that you would like to know. For example, maybe you have to share the questionnaire to the respondent, and the respondent can answer, but it's just limited, or we call it as a pilot research or pilot project, just to make sure that your guideline, your instrument are working well. So maybe in the government sciences or in the politics sciences, maybe doing a research about that. Fine. Maybe some of you are familiar with quantitative research or qualitative research. May I know? Maybe some of you are familiar with qualitative or quantitative. Okay, Tanzin view. Identify alternative policies means from to apply the existing policy or amending the existing or creating new one. It have to creating the new one for the another policies. Sorry guys, please give me a second, yeah. Okay. Nantinzar both method. How in Bukidnon University do they working or use qualitative research or quantitative research or both? Maybe from Bukidnon University and from Visayas, Central Mindanao. Okay. Who is raising? Okay, please go ahead, Mary.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I am audible.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I am from Bukidnon State University, and Bukidnon State University doing both methods, the qualitative and quantitative research.
Okay, thank you, Mary. So maybe I would like to know about your perspective, which one of the method that is really familiar with you guys? Is it qualitative or quantitative or also both? Maybe in Indonesia, the familiar one is qualitative research. For the quantitative research, mostly they are coming from the economics or from the math. They're mostly using quantitative. Okay. My cursor is not work. Okay, familiar both in Mahidol University. Nantinzarno. Okay.
Yes.
Are you a master student or undergraduate student?
I am master student.
In which year?
Second year. I am
second
not
year.
first semester. Yes.
So you're almost done.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
good luck. Okay, in the Visayas, mostly they are using quantitative. In the Central Mindanao is qualitative. Okay, it's really familiar. Okay, so we are going to the next slide. Okay, this is the cycle of when we are using the policy making process. When we are working in the policy, then we have to first reviewing and then arranging for the evaluation. But the thing is first, you have to identify problems. Okay, so the first thing, when you are working in the policy process or in the public policy, then you have to review and looking for the report that can help you identify the problem. And then the research set agenda. This is called agenda setting. And then when you're already arranging the agenda setting, identify the problems, and then you have to formulating. What kind of formulate that you have to work? The first is develop option and strategies, of course, and then negotiate, and then formulate policy. And then who will work or who will running the policy? It's not only the government, but the government have to including or have to inviting the scholars, the academician, and then the private sectors. So the government can really coming up and really give the sum up about the conflict or the problem that those stakeholders are facing. So that's why in the formulation, they have the negotiation process, or we call it negotiate. So how they can deal with this, point out, and how they can deal with this thing, and how they can deal with this part. And then they can really formulating the policy. After that, when the policy already formulated, and then they can implementation, or they can implement the policy.
But the policy have to implement directly without any trial and error? No. In some of the country, they have to make a trial and error first to knowing how to respond from the citizen. Maybe because they are from the democratic country, they have to cover up the sound from the society. And then they can enforce the policy and implement the policy. If the response of the society still have lacking and they still don't have any good sounding from the society, they have to more arranging. So that's why maybe in the government level, when they arranging one policy, it can be take a lot of money. Like maybe for example, maybe for example, like in Indonesia, 100,000 US dollar. Maybe that's just for the example, for one policy only. So that's why the process will take much of money and then the process will take much of time. So the policy maybe for one policy can be released or can be fixed in a year process. So that's why it will take a lot of money. So the government have to make sure that the policy can really help the society and the government itself. And then if they already implement it, and then they can review, make a report for the final problem that they already define it in this policy, and then evaluate and monitor the policy, how the policy can work well. Maybe somehow, maybe like in Indonesia, in the case of Indonesia, in 2015, we already implement the electronic governance and then electronic government, but it's directly changing when the era is already more significantly improved. Like we already know about the technology and then smartphone and then etc. And then it's more moving to smart city. Smart city already implement not in all part of the district in Indonesia, but it's now already changing to the digital governance issue. Is it still in the same phenomenology? Yeah, it's still in the same phenomenology that we call it technology. 5.0 and the Web 3.0, Web 2.0, and etc. So we call it, it's just a phenomenology about the transformation of technology in government, from the electronic government, smart city, and then we are now in the level of digital governance. So it's moving so fast, but the concept is still same. How the government using the technology, and technology can help the government's work. It's not only how we use the technology, but how we can doing our work helpfully with using technology. So we are now in the level of digital government, even though some of the districts, some of the villages didn't really implement the smart city as the second level of transformation, digitalization, or transformation technology. So, okay, maybe that is all from me for the materials today. Maybe some of you have any question. I will give the part one for 3% first, maybe Milky, and maybe another one. Okay, Milky, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Milky. I am from Central Mindanao University, and it is an irrefutable fact that policy tools are indeed pivotal in the policy-making calculus, as these instruments really help in defining policy objectives. And these instruments are also vital and essential in amplifying the conditions and improving the lives of the targets of our policies, which is the people. But it is also an undeniable fact that integrating policy tools in the policy making processes can be taxing, can be exhilarating, and can be consuming in terms of time, money, and resources, such as what you said earlier. And this problem also results to the proliferation of bureaucratic red tapes, which slows down the implementation of urgently needed policies. So my question is, if in the context of Indonesia, are there any mechanisms or interventions put in place in order to counter this problem? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milky, for the question. Yeah, we cannot deny it that the policy process, it's somehow people those are not really believe about the government's issue. Maybe they just maybe they just saying like, okay, it's just against from the government to running us, to run the world, or to controlling our society and to controlling our activities, something like that. But in the case of Indonesia, it somehow I can explain, or I can say that it will depends on our leaders. Because even though we already arranging the best or the good policy processes, but the leaders cannot really take the decision for the right time, so it will impacting anything. So the policy is not really working. Maybe Milky, you want to point light?
So there are no mechanisms. Is that what you're trying to convey, ma'am? There are no mechanisms in place in Indonesia, for example.
Yeah, for the mechanism, we don't have really much, but the government who are releasing the policy, even though the society are doing a demonstration, but the government cannot really covering up the society's songs. So our country still don't have any place that can covering this part. But we are doing a research, or we are doing a policy research that can releasing the alternative policy. Maybe that is Milky.
So how can we ensure the efficiency and effectivity of these policy tools, integrating this policy and this policy instruments within the policy making
I'm sorry, Milky, your voice is just cannot clear.
I'm sorry, my connection was frail. Um, I would like to ask again, ma'am. Oh my gosh.
Okay, guys, maybe we are still waiting for Milky for a while. Maybe we will take a break for a while, 5 minutes, since my doctor just coming up in my house.
Okay, guys, because Mrs. Owl still has not joined, while waiting for her, I call someone for the question. Please, Princess Marie Tomaro, please.
Hello, is it okay to raise my question right now? Okay, so for my question, we all know that in today's time there are indeed a lot of political maneuverings, favors there and political favors over there. In McCormick's book, in the McCormick's book of comparative politics, he pointed out how iron triangle does exist in Japan, how businesses, Congress, and the entire electoral favors works in return of those kind of connections. So there are presence of political maneuverings and political favors. With that being said, in the Indonesian context, how can policymakers create an environment that protects the policymaking process from undue political influence and prioritizes decisions based on the long-term public interest rather than short-term political gains? In follow-up to this, what concrete measures and institutional safeguards can be established to promote the integrity, transparency, and evidence-based nature of policy formulation and ensuring policies serve the broader societal welfare? Thank you.
Is there any other question? Okay, guys, while waiting Mrs. Ao to come back, we will play some songs for you.
Well, everyone, so coming up
Memperkenalkan
again
100%
with me,
refund
and
guarantee
I'm really
untuk
sorry
penerbangan
because it's suddenly my doctor just visit my house. We just have the arrangement to meet at 1, but suddenly she has a surgeon first. Okay, we are going back to the research question. So maybe Milky, do you want to make it clear first? Maybe you want to continue before I'm going to another question.
I just want to restate what I asked earlier. You said that there are no mechanisms in place or put in place in Indonesia to counter bureaucratic red tapes. For example, slowing down the implementation of urgently needed policies. So my question would be, how can we ensure the efficiency and effectivity of integrating policy tools and these policy instruments in the policy making process if there are no clear indicators of its success within the policy making? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milky. So maybe like before we are going to digitalization in Indonesia, there is not really have the policy criteria how this policy can really run well and etc. But after that, we are implementing like the performance value. Like whenever the policy implement, it should based on the policy. It should based on the performance of each agency. So if each agency cannot really perform well on their work, so the policy will be cut off with our national government. So maybe that is all how we can explaining and how we can state that the efficiency and effectiveness, because in the previous way before our president now, we already implement the policy A, B, C, and we are ruling how we can protect and save our environment, our nation, and how we can against something that not support Indonesia and etc. But it's not have any like the point of efficiency and effectiveness. So maybe they just state that it's effective, it's efficient, but how the fact, and then what kind of the fact that you can give to the society. But now, as the governments in the already implement like the new public service paradigm in our government rules, so it's mean everything's are affecting to the policy should impacting the performance. So the performance as the one of the criteria that can support this policy still effective or it's not. So maybe that's in the case of Indonesia, Milky. Thank you, Milky. I hope it's can understandable, yeah. Okay, so the next question is time consuming in making policies could differ depending on the type of policies. If the policy is not popular, not important, and has low impact, the process could be quick without encountering significant challenges. However, if the policy is of high interest with substantial impact, the process will likely take a long time and face protests from affected groups. For example, in Myanmar, the contract farming policy making process was completed within 6 months. In contrast, the marine fishery policy, which started in, has not been completed yet due to its high interest and far-reaching impact on the entire. Maybe this is the case of the environmental policies, because when we are doing the policies that it's not only the policies of the public services and how we can regulate the requirement of the government and etc., but it's already impacting all the empirical cases when we are talking about the environmental, or in the case of the farming, because it will same with Indonesia, like the environment, like the palm. Maybe some of you already know about the news that we have the fire environment, like in the Riau, if you guys know about Riau, and then it's impacting other countries. Maybe in the Philippines already impacting about our problem with the palm oil fire, and then maybe in Malaysia also impacting. It will impact the bilateral relation between each country. Maybe that's Tanzin Pio. Maybe you have empirical cases in Myanmar. Maybe you want to explain, Tanzin Pio.
Yes, I have experience in amending of fishery laws starting in 2017, as well as I have also experience in developing the new policy related with the land revenue as well as the contract farming policy. So as I mentioned before, the contract farming policy as well as the land revenue policy is not much have impact to the whole communities, because there is not the popular policy in Myanmar. So there is just developed based on our landing from the Thailand. So it is not popular in Myanmar. But for the fisheries that are, they have a high interest and incentive, because the whole country is mainly rely on the fishery resources. So that's why starting from the 2017, we work with the parliament as well as the different multi-stakeholder. But we have faced a lot of protests as well as the demonstration from the elite class as well as the the government dominant influencer from the private sector. So actually, they are not anchored to promote the rule of the small scale fishers. So that's why we cannot finish until now this kind of the marine fishery policy. So that's why what I would like to share my experience is if the policy is a high impact and high interest among the different stakeholders, it will be difficult to complete within the agreed time frame.
Yeah, that's in view. Maybe it has the same cases in Indonesia. Okay, we are going to Princess Mary tomorrow. Maybe please, Princess, go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. First off, I'd like to say thank you so much for the session. We did learn a lot from you when it comes to policy tools, for example. Thank you for that. So moving forward to my question then, in the status quo in today's reality, we have indeed a lot of issues when it comes to political maneuvering. So in McCormick's book, Comparative Politics, he mentioned there how iron triangle does exist, the returning of favors, and how strongman in politics does accommodate each other when it comes to policy making. In line with this, my question with that is that in the Indonesian context, how can policymakers create an environment that protects the policymaking process from undue political influence that prioritizes decisions based on the long-term public interests rather than short-term political gains? With that being said, what concrete measures and institutional safeguards can be established to promote the integrity, transparency, and evidence-based nature of policy formulation, ensuring policies serve the broader societal welfare? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Princess, for the question. In the case of Indonesia, it's really a difference because somehow we are knowing about the political egos. Like, okay, so we are creating the one policy, but the actors already implement in many kind of actors. For example, maybe from the ministry, and then from the groups or community, and then from the society, and then from the private. But the case is they want to win for their point out to be releasing in the politics issue. For example, maybe in the meeting of the representative of national, they just arranging and arguing or something, but in fact in the behind of that they are negotiated by each person to support their point. So when you are looking for how we can create an environment that protect the policy making process from undue political influence and prioritizing decision based on the long-term public interest, it will be leading to how the leaders can driving out the point out how the leaders can really take a good decision. For example, maybe in the case of Indonesia, when our president goes to G20 in Italy, if I'm not wrong, the place, and then a lot of the country suggests that Indonesia have to always exporting their materials and then their resources to other country to support other country. But at the time, our president just walk out and leave the room that have that already point out that Indonesia have to contribute and export something to other countries. So this is one of the good things that the leaders run the good point or run the good actors in this part of policy. But the thing is, in Indonesia, the case of leaders are going from the election parties. I mean, like our president just like have a controlling from the parties that support him to be a president. So the case of those environment cannot be really rejected in Indonesia because in the case of Indonesia, the cultural issue is like the point out in Indonesia. For example, maybe in Germany or in the developed country, they are really strong to explaining that we don't have to agree in something that not give impactful for the society. But in Indonesia, when we are strongly disagree for that kind of those thing, even though we are in the minority person or in the minority groups, so we are just like the social cultural or the culture will be rejecting us. Like, how do I say? It's like just a behavior knowledge that have to improve from the Indonesia. Maybe that's from me, Princess.
Thank you, ma'am.
Maybe any other, it's already 4. Maybe that is all from me, guys, for these materials. I hope we can meet again. And you still have to wait 2 days, right? To join the summer school. I hope everyone can be safe and enjoy this moment. And don't forget that we have awarding for those students who really actively participate in our summer school. Maybe thanks for your all attention. Maybe I will give it back to Nana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Awo. Okay, maybe that's all. Thank you very much for your participation. Before we end the meeting, we would like to take a picture together. Please open your camera. Okay, let's smile. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your participation, and you may leave the meeting. And don't forget to join the meeting tomorrow. See you guys, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.